Just to let you know, in the 4 hour time frame, I'm seeing a reversal take place here, getting these buy signals right here, this bottoming signal here. We had one right here for the counter trend and over here for the counter trend, but again, we're getting these back-to-back buy signals, and then we're getting this trend trying to reverse. We've had the red going on right here, and the momentum line being bearish here in the 4 hour time frame. That's trying to change right now, and it's trying to form, getting above the cloud, this cloud right here. We're trying to clear it, and the bar is trying to flip back to green. I think you're going to be successful in carving out a bottoming tail in the daily time frame. And again, I posted with the I think it was just over a 7% sell-off overnight. Bitcoin just under the 200 period moving average. We formed triple bullish diversions. I'll be talking about that in a moment, but wanted to make you aware of these buy signals that are showing up here in the 4 hour time frame. Now, again, momentum is still bearish in the daily time frame. My signals have been consistently bearish since I called the top on January 20th. We've had them consistently bearish. Broke key support, and they remained bearish, taking out the January low. Talk about that. I think Bitcoin just bottomed out, and I think this is confirming that here in the 4 hour time frame. Now, we don't have that yet in the daily, and again, things are still bearish, but we're getting what I think a bottoming tail around our 200 period moving average. I've been talking about this bullish diversions. I told you when we broke below the January low, we may attempt to go back and test the 200 period moving average. We've done that, and again, I told you we could tag it and try to bounce, or we could take it out. We've taken it out. We're trying to get this bottoming tail after dropping 7%. So I think Bitcoin bottomed. Great opportunity. They're watching this overnight very carefully, and I posted some charts. I'll talk about that in a moment. Posted some charts on X. The triple bullish diversions have formed. Now, again, signals are still bearish. Momentum line is still bearish. Trend signals here, but the 4 hour chart's trying to change. And if it can successfully change, we can bounce off of this area, and then you'll see the bottoming signals come in here. You got a signal here saying that, hey, we might have a bottom right there. If I bring up another one of my indicators, yep, it is showing that we have a possible bottom right here as well. A little green circle right there, suggesting that we are trying to bottom. Here we got it, and we went sideways. Over here we got it, and it marked these bottoms over here. If I just zoom out here for a second, the last red circle that I got for a top was over here, and again, we went a little bit higher, and we got other signals. That was the diversions at the December top. Over here, I never got a signal warning of a top right there, and again, it's probably means we haven't topped yet. And I think we're bottoming here. I told you last week I thought we would bottom this week. Likelihood they're validating this as wave 4 or getting wave 4. Again, I got really important things. Bitcoin is likely bottoming, okay? And I talked about that when we were down 7% on my post on X, warning you likely bottomed this week, and we talked about the 200 period moving average. So watch the video all the way through. You want to see what's going on. I'm going to feature the Elliott Wave count. You're going to want to see this going long because I'm getting a lot of questions, trying to answer your questions. Video all the way through. Please support the channel with the link directly below that allows me to be able to provide you this information. The charts you like, the indicators, let me know that by supporting the channel today. Link below to take you to a secured site. You can donate any amount you want or make it a recurring donation. If you do that, I thank you. I do that instead of getting sponsors because I don't want to sell you a bunch of stuff. Please consider taking the time to partner with me if you like this information, if you like my chart, you like my indicators. Do yourself a favor and watch the video all the way through. Bitcoin's likely bottoming. Again, we're likely going to go make new all-time highs. You'll see what I think is going to happen. Watch the video all the way through. Now, it is just over halfway through the session, the Friday session for Bitcoin. The stock market has been open for just over an hour, and we saw Bitcoin sell off overnight and dropped about 7%. Again, I've been talking about a bottom surrounding the 200 period moving average. Bitcoin likely just bottomed. In my opinion, it did. I told you I was looking for a bottom this week. That could come Tuesday or Wednesday. We got it here today on Friday. We had a final flush out move, and that's giving us this bottoming tail. Right now we're down 0.81%. We dropped 7% for the session, and posted on social media down 7% that we were forming a triple bullish divergence. As the European markets were opening, I posted this chart. Bitcoin was down about 7%, and again forming a triple bullish divergence. And I posted this and talked about, again, I believe Bitcoin is bottoming, and I think it's going to go up and end up making a new high above Inauguration Day. Now, I called the very day of the top on January 20th for Inauguration Day, just like I called the January 13th bottom and told you we were going to run up. But then I told you we were going to sell off here. Now, I told you I thought the support zone, the January low, would hold, but I told you if it didn't, then we're going to get a larger correction. And minor wave 4 did not finish here, but it's finishing over here. And again, we're seeing the big players dump the Bitcoin ETF. We're seeing the distribution. Now, again, well, I got the top right, got the sell-off right. We did go lower than I thought. We had a 5-day sell-off, and now the 5th day here, we're getting this reversal below the support zone. We dropped about 12%, just over 12% more than I thought we would. I did give you this scenario that wave 4 would finish down here rather than over at the January low, if that, in fact, my other count was invalidated. The Elliott Wave count, but again, I talked about this triple divergence, and here on the histogram, Bitcoin was dropping another 7% overnight before the traditional markets opened. And again, great buying opportunities. People are, selling out at the bottom. Folks that told us this sell-off was never going to happen. Well, I got the top right, the January bottom right, and the December, the day of those tops, and the December and January top, and the January bottom correct. Right here, I did get the sell-off right, but we did go lower than I thought, about 12%. I had some troll on social media. I'm still bullish, and I believe Bitcoin's going to make new highs, misrepresenting what I've been saying. And we've dropped 31%, and troll trying to say I've been bullish the whole way. And again, I called the day of the top and called it itself. I just thought this low would hold, but I told you it may not. And I've been talked about this other scenario with minor wave 4 not completing here, but down over here. But a great buying opportunity surrounding the triple bullish divergence just below that 200 period day moving average. Let's take a look at this. What it looks like right now. I posted this on X, formerly known as Twitter, at Charting Prodigy, and here's what that looks like right now. Now, I've talked about that if we kept going lower, we may try to reach the trend line from the 2023 low. We did not. I talked about horizontal support. Bitcoin came down towards that trend line. I talked about the 74,000 area. This is just below 74,000, the March peak. And I talked about the trend line right here, just above it, that 77 to 74,000 area, depending on where we reached it. And again, we came down, and if you exclude the shadow right here, we came down with the 2023 trend line. And we came down to just under the 200 period. If we exclude that shadow, the red trend line right there, we hit that at 78,000. Again, I talked about how the RSI is very, very oversold. I told you I thought we probably had a bottom surrounding the 200 there on Wednesday, but I told you we could overthrow it. We often overthrow moving averages, and I talked about that. Over here, we overthrew the 100 period moving average and then got the big move up. Over here, we overthrew the 100 period moving average and rallied back up big time to test the high. Over here, we overthrew the 200 period moving average and then rallied up to get another lower high in that consolidation before we had the breakout above the March high. Over here, when we broke out above the 200, we pulled back to just under it, and then we rallied. But oftentimes, you will test the 200 period moving average or the 100 period moving average and overthrow these levels. Now, we're below that 100 period moving average. That's not good. But Bitcoin was below it over here. The pink line's the 100 period moving average. Got to get back above that 100 period moving average. I'll show you my Elliott Wave count. I believe that we're now completing wave 4 and probably have the bottom in. Again, I talked about carving out a bottom this week. So we might get it around Tuesday or Wednesday. We took out the Wednesday low, and it looks like we got it today. So I was right about Bitcoin forming a bottom this week. I'm just giving you a ballpark estimate of what I'm thinking and what I'm looking at. But I think Bitcoin, and here's the recovery that's going on right now. Again, we were down 7%. Right now, Bitcoin down about 1%. It was less than that just a little bit ago as I'm making the video. Again, the triple bullish diversions. We had a bullish divergence. So I think is what we have right here. And I just want to talk about this Elliott Wave count. I think it's a large W, a WXY pattern. And at all the volatility, DeepSeek, and the tariffs, and I think Bitcoin's going to get a powerful move back up, and I think that this is a complex correction that has unfolded with a W, excuse me, X, and then Y. So that's what I think is going on right here, and I think you've got this A, B, C move, and it's unfolding, and this is why I told you we might have a bottom right there with the Wednesday low. The S&P is doing something very, very similar, this 5-leg push lower. Rather than that being wave 5, the whole thing was wave 1, 2, 3. The whole thing was 3. Then the rally for 4, back up with that bullish divergence, and then the triple bullish divergence for 5 over here. And that completes the C, the ABC, and then that completes the Y of the WXY, and that completes wave 4. So we've likely just bottomed with that 7% drop, forming this triple bullish divergence. That's why I posted that on social media when we were down 7%, just over 7% at the lows there. And again, buyers came back in. This is just trying to flush out the weak hands. Why we broke support here. The support now turned resistance. That's why we flushed out the weak hands, scaring the pants off people. Now again, I'm a trader. I trade Bitcoin back and forth, but I'm talking about those people that bought the top. They up at the highs. Michael Saylor was buying, and people were, oh yeah, Michael Saylor's buying it. It's got to go higher. Called that top on January 20th. I told we were going to have a sell-off. Everybody was super bullish. The herd was super bullish up there. We were going to have a sell-off. Yeah, we went lower than I thought we would go, but I told you what would happen if this level was taken out. I gave you both scenarios. If we got a higher low, our wave 4 would complete here. If it didn't, it would complete over here. The triple bullish divergence is likely put in a tradable bottom. We probably just bottomed. What I've been predicting would happen this week. So I think we've likely established a bottom. I'm getting some bullish signals here, like this bullish divergence. The signals have been consistently bearish, but I expect that, but I am getting signals that a bottom is forming, and I would expect that we're going to start seeing momentum flip back to bullish and other things, trend signals turn back to bullish. I think Bitcoin's going to new highs, and I think, again, this is minor wave 4 right here, and we're going to get the final minor wave 5. Why do I think that? Just had the inverting of the yield curve again. The stock market goes and makes a new high. I think that the S&P will, and it's completing a 5-leg push down right now as well. Following along on my Ron Walker channel, covered the S&P 500 and the NASDAQ. I'll try to link my latest video at the end of this one in case you didn't see it. A very similar 5-leg count on the S&P 500 that I think is coming to a conclusion as well. But beautiful divergences here on Bitcoin, and that's giving us a bullish MACD. This has got to go positive to recover, but we're likely headed back up. We're likely headed back up into this area here to fill the IBIT, the Bitcoin ETF gap. We'll probably move up in here to the moving averages, the 50, maybe the 200 here, the trend line, and then probably get some kind of pullback, and then I think you'll end up busting up through this. We're probably beginning the first subwave of minor wave 5 right now, and you're probably going to see this kind of move where you go up and then you pull back and then you bust up through this area. That's likely going to be the case. We're probably going to have a very favorable March. Remember the seasonality, you get the volatility in January or February or both, which is what we've had, and then you get a favorable March, and we'll probably see this go on into April. 50-minute chart, we're trying to break the trend line. We're testing the 50 period right here, and we're seeing the RSI go into positive territory. Can it remain there? If it does, then again, we move out of this decline. Remember over here, we had the drop below the 50 and the drop below the 50 period moving average and the drop below 50 on the RSI. Now we're trying to get back above it. The pull-ups to the 50 have been where the counter trends have been, going to that 50 period moving average, and you can see it moving towards it over here and then coming up here, just overthrowing it and showing. Now we're at it again. So again, do we turn back down? Maybe we do. We could come back down for a test and then build momentum in these smaller micro waves that could be under construction, but you're likely going to head towards the gap fill with IBIT. We'll see if we get in positive territory or if we do something like that. But get into positive territory above 50 here, and that would suggest that the bottom is in over here. But we'll see if we pull back for a test. Big move up here after that 7% drop. Again, you still have the possibility of an inverse head and shoulders now that could be under construction, and you could come up here higher and then get a back test of the trend line, something like that. Or move back into the trading range or whatever. No guarantee the head and shoulders, inverse head and shoulders sets up, but it very well could. Very common. Head and shoulder patterns are very common on Bitcoin. But I think Bitcoin's bottomed. Looking for a bottom this week. Told you I thought we might have it on Wednesday with Wednesday's low. We went a little bit lower. That was a bounce off the 200. I warned you we could still go below that 200 period, and oftentimes that is the case. So again, I do believe Bitcoin's bottoming. Likely put in a tradable bottom now. Now those other trend lines, we violated them. Here's our log scaling trend line. We violated the log scaling trend line. We're probably going to close back above it and then go on our way back up into this area for a test. Here's our linear scaling trend line right here from these lows. And again, my linear trend line moved on me. My linear trend line, again, we're testing it. We move below it to hit the 200, and then we're getting back above it. I always watch these trend lines. The risk is we have a channel here. My guess is we're going to end up breaking this downward trend line. We'll probably pull up to it, fill the gap on IBIT, and then pull back, and then eventually break through it and go get your minor wave 5. More about the Elliott Wave count shortly. I think you're going to end up closing above these levels and attempting a recovery, massive recovery, probably next week. And again, we have those tariffs coming into play. We'll probably see more concessions out of Mexico and Canada and see them paused. And even if we don't, the market just might shrug it off, and Bitcoin might shrug it off. We're about to get the tax cuts, and it may focus on that rather than the tariffs. We'll see what happens. The IBIT ETF, this is a 60-minute chart. It looks very similar to that 4-hour chart because Bitcoin trades around the clock. The 4-hour chart, very similar to the 60-minute chart here. Again, you got your triple bullish divergence, just like on the Bitcoin 4-hour chart. Look at this gap right here at 53.41, and the trend line is coming in at that area. That's where I think we're likely headed. We're going to come back and fill this gap, probably see eventually a test of this, a test of the gap here, a gap fill, and a test of the trend line, maybe hitting the 200 period. It might be right in this area by the time we get there, and then probably some kind of pullback and build momentum to break out, or a deeper pullback or something. But again, going to be watching this gap fill. That's where I think we're likely headed. Again, we had the bullish divergence right here. I talked about that. Ended up forming a triple bullish divergence. That is the strongest signal in technical analysis, a triple and quadruple bullish divergence. That's the strongest signal as far as a reversal is concerned. Again, it was a bearish divergence at the peak. And again, bullish divergence here just gave us a bounce and counter trends to the 200. And then now we have this bullish divergence that's probably going to give us a bottom. We had a bullish divergence over here at the January bottom. I talked about that on, again, predicting we moved down to the trend line on the linear scaling and predicted that we get that bottom on January 13th, and I was correct about that. Now we gapped lower below the January low. Look at that. So there'll be some resistance, that gap resistance right there. And that's probably where our 50 period is going to come in by the time we reach it. And then if we can get above those levels, then you have your gap fill here at 53. So I'll be watching these levels. And again, Bitcoin can get we've had this big drop. Bitcoin has these exaggerated moves up and down. We could see a massive move back to the upside very, very quickly to get IBIT back up here to fill the gap. So I think that IBIT going back to fill the gap will test the trend line, and that will allow Bitcoin to move back towards that trend line. Same trend line we just saw the daily chart earlier. Let me show you my Elliott Wave count. Here it is up close, okay, the WXY pattern on the 4-hour chart and the bullish divergence. Let me show you the whole thing zooming out. I do. Here's that trend line again. Here's the trend line on the daily chart. This is where, again, I think Bitcoin is likely headed up. I bet we'll go back and fill the gap. Bitcoin will move towards this trend line. And again, then we'll probably get some kind of pullback and then a higher low and then bust up through this area. Eventually, I think we clear this area and get back this resistance area. Whoops, wrong one. This area in here, and I've marked that on my other chart as the resistance area at that 100,000 area. And then you got more resistance on into this area in here. And then we have, again, the highs over here. So again, you've got the different resistance zones, but you got to get back above the 100 period moving average in order to recover. And again, we'll be watching to see if we can do that. You stay below that, that's going to be extremely bearish. But I think you'll end up to the session here with a bottoming tail after that I think it was just over 7% drop. The buyers came back in. Great buying opportunity surrounding the 200. I told you again, if we did move down to the 200, you can tag it and bounce off of it, or just move just below it. And again, the big players watch the 200 period moving average. Now, I want to bring in my larger Elliott Wave count. I showed you this area right here on the 4-hour chart. This from wave 3 to 4 right here. I want to just show you the whole thing so you can understand my thinking. And let me just adjust something here. The Bitcoin retracements from this advance so far has just been below our 0.382, just above our 50% retracement of that advance. So again, we're hovering near the 200 period, surrounding some important Fibonacci levels. But again, I think we had this complex WXY pattern that's given us a completion of the wave 4. I think you're about to get the wave 5. And listen to me. Remember how emotional everybody is right now. Because again, everybody's all like, told us that when I called the top on January and told you we were going to get a sell-off, and we've gone further than I thought, warn of the risk of taking out that January low. Third, didn't think any of it was going to happen. Told us it wasn't going to happen, and there's no possible way it can happen. We turned off two major trend lines up here, which I talked about. And that's why I correctly called the day of that top and the day of that top. But the herd now getting very, very bearish. The fear greed reached 10. Talked about yesterday, and it's just above that now. I looked at it, it was like 17 or 18, I think. But we're going to climb back up, and the same people that told us the December sell-off wasn't going to happen, that the January sell-off wasn't going to happen, they're going to get extremely bullish when we come back up in this area here. Okay, they're going to get extremely, and they're going to say, we're probably going to go, the 1.61 will go to towards 126, 127,000. If we go to the 1.78, we'll go towards 135,000. Other Fibonacci's longer term in the weekly time frame take us to the 135,000 area, which would be in agreement with this right here, or that 140,000 area. The trend line's my target, not a number. I'm just looking at Fibonacci extensions that seem to complement the trend line in the weekly time frame. And if you watch, I'll show it to you in just a moment. But again, this is what I think's going to happen. We're still going to go up and hit that level, and then they're going to be so amazed by this move that the herd is going to be so amazed that, again, then we're going to get the massive rug pull. And again, the sell-off that's coming up here after we get the final blow off top, it's going to be horrific, because we're going to go back and test 115,000. This is going to end the bull cycle right here. Third is going to be, when we get up here into this area, they're going to be going 200,000, 500,000, 700,000, same thing they always do. The herd is so predictable. And that next sell-off is going to make this look like a church picnic. Okay, this is nothing compared to what's about to happen, because here you've dropped 31%. When we get up here, we're going to have a very fast 50% drop. Bitcoin's going to be cut in half within 2 or 3 months. It will be cut in half. We had a 33% sell-off. Over here so far, we've had now a 31% sell-off. My guess is we've probably bottomed. Over here, when we peak, we're going to do like what we did in 2021. We're going to have a we dropped 52% in a couple of months on Bitcoin. No rebound back up, and everybody kept waiting for and we finally got a feeble rebound after breaking the 200. We tested it daily time frame back at the 2021 top going into early 2022 there, never recovered. When we get up here, you're going to have a 50% drop or so that's going to freak everybody out. If we get up to the 135,000 area, say, we're going to come back to 67,500 really fast, take out this low, and come back over into this area over here again, this peak was 74,000, but you're going to move back towards the 2021 top, which was 69,000. You're going to move back to that area very, very quickly. Why? Because Bitcoin's going to begin to price in the recession that we're being told is not going to happen. Just got this week the second inverting of the yield curve telling us a recession is about to start. Just months away from starting. Bitcoin's going to go up here, it's going to peak, and then before that recession hits, it's going to begin to drop. Right before the recession, about a month or two before the recession officially starts. This is what I still think is going to happen. I still longer term bullish. Predicted this sell-off. We went lower than I thought. Signals have remained consistently bearish because I have good indicators. I do expect that they're going to turn back to bullish, and like I said, if we don't recover here, then you're going to be having some very bearish signals in the weekly time frame. This is where we're going to get a recovery. Here it is in the weekly time frame. This is where I think we're going. Again, I think we're completing wave 4. I think that, again, we've had primary wave 4 complete here. I think you've got these 5 intermediate waves, 1, 2, 3, 4, and now this is our 5th intermediate wave in primary, wave 5, okay, and a bunch of 5s up here, and in that intermediate wave 5 right here, you have the 5 minor waves, and I think we have the 1 and the 2 and the 3 and now the 4 completing, and now I think you get 5, and I think we're going right in that trend line. And when we get there, again, the big money, the big players, the Black Rocks and the fat cats and all the big money is going to be selling right in there. When the herd is going to be going, oh, we're going to go to 200,000, we're going to go to 500,000. We're going to top right there, and they're going to do a rug pull that's going to make this look like nothing. They're going to do a rug pull that is going to take us back down, to take out this low, back down to this trend line. And like I said, we're going to get a quick 50% drop on Bitcoin in all likelihood. At least a 40%, but probably a 50% drop. That's what happened at the 2021 after the 2021 peak. We dropped 50% into early 2022, really, really fast, 2%. So again, the trend line is my target, not a number. And depending on when we reach it, look, we've gone nowhere real fast. Look at this. We've gone nowhere for months, ever since the election. We had the election rally, and then now we had Inauguration Day. We had that peak on January 20th, and then we've had this pullback, and we've just really gone nowhere. We've not been able to reach the trend line. We're still going to likely do it, in my opinion. I think that will mark a Bitcoin chop. Why? Because recession is coming. The recession Powell and the Fed is telling us isn't going to happen. Their supposed favorite recession indicators telling us we're going to have a recession, but yet they ignore it. That's what the Fed does at every market top, every time. Right before every recession, they always tell us, oh, no, we've had a soft landing. Powell just said, oh, it's clear we've avoided a recession. That's what he said on December 18th. The Fed's arrogance, they say it at every single time. Yes, inflation's going to rise. What happened in 2007? That's what happened in 2001. Inflation rises, and then you get the unemployment rate starting to turn up, and we're going to start seeing evidence of that. Look at all the layoffs and firings that are happening in the federal government right now. I've been warning about this. All these people told us, oh, Trump's going to go in here and he's going to massive deficits and expand the government. And I told you the complete opposite was going to happen from what the so-called experts were telling us. The economy was artificially propped up. 2024, the government spent $2.2 trillion in deficit spending, artificially propping up the economy just before the election. That's now going to be removed. And you're seeing the shrinking of the government, and you're going to see that reflected in the unemployment rate and the jobs report, with the amount of jobs being reduced in the federal government. I've been warning you is going to happen, but we're going to get one final climax move, the final phase of the blow off top, and that's going to be right here, and then we're going to peak. Again, I think that could take us into 135, 140,000 or so, something like that, but I think you're going to, depending on when we reach the trend line, but I think you're going to reach the trend line here going forward. I still think you're going to do it. I think this is a wave 4. Let me move that. I had marked it as January as a possible completion of wave 4, but it looks like this is it now. And again, we're recovering off the weekly low. This is a weekly chart. And then I think you're going to have this happen. You're going to see the bottom fall out of Bitcoin. Again, I believe we're going back to take out 15,000. There's a major trend line right below it. And again, this trend line right here, along with another one, longer term trend lines that I'm looking at. So again, well, the sentiment is really, really bearish right now. People are really afraid and very bearish. The herd gets very bearish at market bottoms. I want you to remember the emotions right now and have the sentiment right now, because you're going to have after the next drop. When we come up here, they're going to be extremely bullish like they were at the December and January top. So just remember that. Herd is always super bullish at tops and super bearish at bottoms. Don't lose sight of the big picture, but I think you've got your wave 4. We'll see if we continue to recover on into the weekend, and if that gives us a larger recovery as we go into next week. Well, the tariffs are about to start. Well, they started on February 1st, and they lasted a day and a half, and Trump got concessions out of Canada and Mexico, and they were paused. So again, if we get something like that again, or maybe the market shrugs it off and focuses on, and the crypto community focuses on tax cuts to get those through. Catalyst may be, or whatever may be, and we see accumulation. Again, this is what I think is about to happen, and I don't lose sight of the big picture. Let me just move my 3 over here. I was speculating that we had the completion of wave 4 here at the January low, and now again, that's been invalidated. So again, as I talked about, I told you if we took out the January low, we go a little bit lower here and then get complete minor wave 4. Wave 4 hadn't finished yet. Had we invalidated it and take out the January low. So then we have 3 here rather than over here. 3 would be here, and this move up to be 3, and then 4, and then 5. So my other count got invalidated. This count is now in play. One reason why I think we're going to go up and hit that channel, the upper boundary of that channel, is because Bitcoin makes beautiful channels. Bitcoin makes some of those beautiful channels I've ever seen in my life, and we never have reached that upper boundary. I think it's highly probable that we're going to reach it. If you go up there, you're also going to be not only hitting on the daily chart I showed you the Fibonacci extensions from the more recent price action. Here, if we look at the longer term Fibonacci extensions, here we have the 1.618 up here at just under 125,000 right there. If we go up here and slam up into this trend line, you're coming up into the 1.786, which is at, again, that 135, 136,000 area. It's 135,941. And that is an agreement with my Fibonacci extension on the daily chart for the shorter term. So it's all kind of pointing up to this upper boundary channel, and I think we're going to end up reaching it. Now, if you reach it, you also have this trend line right here, which is parallel to the lower boundary right here, and this is where my target is, which is below 15,000. Is why I'm telling you this is where we're headed in the bear market. Bitcoin going into 2026 is going to come down here and take out 15,000 and move to this trend line wherever it comes into contact with it. This is where we're going with the bear market. Now, again, I'm still bullish longer term on Bitcoin. I still think we make new highs. I've been bearish shorter term, believing the pullback. I told you I thought the January low would probably hold, but told you what would happen if it didn't. I was wrong about the January low not holding. I was right about the sell-off. I was right about the January top. I was right about the January bottom. I was right about the December top. Following those days. Going to be perfect. Gave you this other scenario that we would have complete wave 4 over here if we took out that January low. I still think we're coming up into this area right here. And again, you have this upper channel line intersecting with this boundary here. And then I think, again, you're going to see the bottom fall out of Bitcoin. You're going to come back to this lower channel. You'll probably end up getting a bounce or something. And then you're going to see this thing just completely collapse. This ABC move over time that's probably going to take us into the summer or fall or maybe latter part of 2026, but I think probably you're going to see a sell-off going into this area, probably into the summer or fall of 2026 in all likelihood. So again, just a confluence of resistance. We're hitting some support. I think we're going to bounce, and then I think you're going to, and again, up here, it's just going to be like back over here. Nobody's going to say it's a bottom, just like at the January peak. When I called the peak and the top there on January 20th, day of Trump's inauguration, we're going to get a pullback. We pull back more than I thought. I was correct about the pullback. I was correct about the day of the top. Nobody, the herd, told us it wasn't going to happen. Why did I say it was going to happen? Why did I say that was going to happen? Because I warned you about these trend lines in the weekly time frame. We talked about them in every single video over and over again, and I warned you again that right here, we were going to see a reaction, in all likelihood, a pullback off of this level. And then we rose up in January and we hit it again. And I told you we were slamming into it. We had this trend line. This is our log scaling. We hit another trend line at that exact same area with our linear scaling with the Bitcoin weekly chart. Again, I told you we're going to pull back and build momentum to clear this area, to clear the trend line, to clear it, and to be able to get above it and hit this other upper channel line. And I think you're going to see that happen, and I think you're going to come up there, and you're going to see a move, and I think it's going to be very, very quick. Again, possibly with some positive tariff news of them being delayed or whatnot. Tariffs are designed to bring the EU and bring Canada and bring Mexico to the bargaining table. Again, everybody's freaking out, say, Trump's he's causing a trade war. The countries that Trump's doing this to, their tariffs are worse than Trump's. He's just trying to level the playing field. I'm not a fan of Trump's tariffs. I don't like his tariffs. I don't like the EU's tariffs. I don't like Canada's tariffs. The media is trying to convince us we're going to have a trade war, and maybe negotiations happen, and we don't. Trump's a businessman. He's a deal maker, and maybe we see something, but still, I think we're going to get an inflation freakout. The tariffs are likely going to be part of that. I still think we're going to get a rally, and maybe we see concessions, some deals being reached. It happens. I think you're coming up here, and you're going to get a top. I think the inflation data is going to tick higher. That'll freak the market out. And again, the stock market and Bitcoin, I think they'll drop rapidly. And when Bitcoin gets up there, it's going to drop 50% real fast. In 2 or 3 months, it'll have dropped 50%. What happened over here? We peaked over here. Boom, 52%. We had a feeble rebound back up to the 200 period and the 50-week moving average here. And then the bottom fell out of Bitcoin and dropped 78%. Listen to me, the same people that were telling us, oh, there's no way Bitcoin's going down in December and January. That's the same nonsense they said over here. Okay, now I think Bitcoin's going higher, but then I think it's going to top. You're going to hear that same nonsense back up at the top. Oh, don't let them buy your Bitcoin. And again, they'll end up blindsided. The herd will be blindsided as they usually are. And again, like right here, we're forming a bottom, and the herd's telling, they're freaking out. Up here at the top, they're telling us, you were a dope if you believed that Bitcoin was possibly going to go down. Herd is very emotional, so just don't forget that. There's going to be sellers up here like me. The buying opportunity right now. Up here was the selling opportunity. Turned off this trend line. I told you about this over and over again from the 2021 low. And again, nailed it. And again, if you pay attention to these trend lines, it's pretty amazing. But we got to get back above this 20-week moving average if we're going to recover. So do keep that in mind. The other trend line we turned off of is our log scaling. Here's our linear scaling. And our linear scaling, again, look at the trend line right here from the 2017 top. You exclude the shadows right here, and then you connect it to the peak there at 69,000 in 2021. It's pointing right up here, and look what happened. We turned off there in December. We turned off there again in January. Again, I talked about this at great length and detail over and over again. I was covering it in every single video. Sold off. So now I think, again, we're going to eventually try to clear those levels. Another trend line right here that would possibly be a level of resistance. But if we can end up clearing that level, you might be able to get larger Fibonacci extension up in here, and that would get us to that upper channel line. Now, again, it's a linear scaling. It's what most people are looking at that look at charts on Bitcoin. People aren't looking at the log scaling with those channels that I've drawn, which I think is where we're going. And you won't see that information if you just look at the linear chart. You don't have it. Always look at linear and log charts. Most people that look at charts in the crypto community just look at linear. They don't look at log. People do. Most people don't. Sure, there are people that cover them that you are aware of. That's fine. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying most people are oblivious to the channels that I'm talking about and the levels that I'm talking about, Fibonacci extensions and so forth, and my target levels with that log scaling. But turned off of these trend lines, as I warned, I think we'll eventually get back above this trend line here, the other one I showed you, to try to move up into the upper channel with our log scaling.